Hello, everyone. It's Friday. It's Raiders Daily. How are we doing? Whether you're watching on Bleacher Report Live or after the fact, I'm too low. I'm just too low. Hold on. Better. After the fact on YouTube, thank you so much for coming back and watching another live stream, watching another video. You know the drill. Get the chat active. We're going to be voting in polls. We've got a lot to discuss today. I'm excited, man. We got March Madness going on. We got a little bit of a slow day in terms of Raider news, but I think this is a good time to sort of evaluate the state of everything because it's easy to be excited about the moves that we've made and Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Spy Tech and all this stuff, right? But it's not until you look at the roster with your own two eyes, the depth chart so far, and obviously the roster that we have right now, the depth chart that we're going to be looking at is not even close to what the final product is going to be when we play whoever we play week one. I'm predicting Monday Night Football, which will be absolutely electric. All that to say, the Raiders roster is not complete by any stretch of the imagination, and there's still some things we can do. Now, yesterday, on Bleacher Report and after the fact on YouTube, I discussed the Ashton Jeanty of it all. And I talked in length about going offense at 6th overall, going Jeanty, going T-Mac. We shall see, right? But there's also a contingent of people, and these people aren't wrong, especially if you look at the roster, that think we should go defense in the first round. And that might depend on who's there. That might depend on if we trade back, if we really believe in Jeanty, the Shedeur Sanders of it all. There's a lot to discuss. So before we start breaking down the roster and the biggest hole that I think we have, right? Let's read this Bleacher Report. No, excuse me. It's not Bleacher Report. I found it on Bleacher Report. It was a link, a hyperlink to a Sports Illustrated article. So let's pull this up right here. We're going to share this and make sure we're getting those questions in there too, because I have a feeling we're going to need some questions at the end of this to flesh out this whole live stream. Okay, let's go to here and to here. Okay, so this is the Raiders roster, but before that, let's read a little bit about the state of the Raiders going into next season. Again, obviously, I said the draft hasn't happened yet. Okay, so there's a lot that still needs to be discussed. There's a lot that still needs to be done with this roster. But if we get into a little bit of the power rankings of it all, and this is a Pro Football Focus led study through Sports Illustrated, it says Raiders given boost in way too early rankings. The Las Vegas Raiders are ranked higher than expected in a recent power ranking. What kickstarted the enthusiasm? This is an article written by Michael France. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. That's the word France. 7 hours ago. And you know what's pretty sad about this as we get into the article? Look at this. Look at the absolute insanity that is what we did last year. And then we win these last two games just for no reason, but it is what it is. It's fine. So far, the offseason for the Las Vegas Raiders they have lost several key pieces on the defense while making a splash addition on offense by way of quarterback Geno Smith. Bolstering the most important position in the sport is a good route to take, and the unexpected trade gave the Raiders a position in Pro Football Focus's power rankings that may surprise some. The Raiders are number 22 in the league per PFF's Mason Cameron. And a quote from Cameron says, "Many expected the Raiders to address the quarterback situation through free agency, but instead, new general manager John Spytek made a bold move by trading for Geno Smith, who ranked 9th in PFF's pass grade last season. While Smith alone won't solve all the team's issues, ain't that the truth? Adding more weapons in the draft to pair with Brock Bowers could give the offense a needed boost. Defensively, here we go, the Raiders locked in their star pass rusher, extending Max Crosby to a lucrative deal while also re-signing Malcolm Kuntz. Those moves could give Las Vegas one of the more formidable pass rush tandems in the AFC West. It shouldn't be surprised that Geno Smith's trade boosted the Raiders' rankings. It was rated the number 8 move of the offseason by CBS Sports' Cody Sullivan. Is Smith, who's 34 years old, a long-term solution for the long-standing quarterback problem in Las Vegas? Unlikely. Does Geno Smith's spirited play and personality mask some of the forced thrown tendencies? Probably. The Raiders needed anyone under center, though, and Smith offered far more arm talent and on-the-field zeal than most available veterans. his arrival shouldn't preclude them from drafting a successor, which I do agree we will do this year. This is the key to it all, though. It would be interesting to know where the Raiders would stand if they didn't lose both starting linebacker Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo, as well as two top defensive backs, Trayvon Merrick and corner Nate Hobbs. The rankings are far too early, as the NFL draft could be a big indicator of how the Silver and Black should be projected. If they land an instant impact player like Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty or T-Mac from Arizona, their offense could be improved. So there was a lot to unpack there. Obviously, the main thing being they are seeing us in just a competent light now because of the Geno Smith of it all. And look, we've talked in great length about Geno Smith. He was the best quarterback on the market. And even in this article, they stated we could really flip the script if we add an impact player on offense, a Ashton Jeanty or a T-Mac to really take this thing to the next level. But they also mentioned that we lost 4 key starters, right? Trayvon Merrick and Nate Hobbs, 2 secondary players, and 2 linebackers, Divine Diablo and Robert Spillane. And I already see people in the chat. I got one right here. I think Elliss and Roberts, these are the 2 linebackers that we signed, are going to be better than people think. I think it's an upgrade over last year. Sorry. I think it's an upgrade over last year's linebackers. Roberts is a dog. He's a player. Elliss has been getting better every year in the league. Now, look, I don't disagree with that. We might do a breakdown of both of those players right now. How do you feel about that? But as I start to bring up the roster, because this is really what I wanted to talk about, the roster. What does it look like right now? Because it's easy to be like, we're going to win 10 games. Let's look at what Spy Tech and Carroll have done so far. I'm going to throw up, and yeah, losing Caleb on Chase on is going to hurt too. Hopefully Tyree Wilson takes that next step. They restructured his contract, is interesting. I'm going to put the first poll out here. This is going to be preliminary. This is going to be before we actually break this stuff down. So I'm curious to see what people think is our biggest defensive need that we still need to address. To me, it's between corner and linebacker, and I can go back and forth between the two. I'll tell you right now why I think it's corner after we break down the roster here, but I want to see these votes going in the chat. Okay. So let's talk roster. Let's talk roster. So we go right here to the roster. So here's the projected depth chart on ESPN.com, right? And we can go through the offense just a little bit here before we get to what is the main issue here, which is the defense, right? Just want to make sure everything's going. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So obviously the quarterback room is a lot better. We got Geno and Aiden O'Connell. We're going to add probably a third rookie quarterback and get rid of Carter Bradley. All of a sudden, we've gone from one of the worst quarterback rooms to one of the better ones with, a young up and coming rookie, Aiden O'Connell, who will be in this league a long time as a backup. Worst case scenario, he will be making a lot of money in this league in terms of being a backup quarterback, and Geno Smith, which is a serviceable top 10-ish starter. We talked a lot yesterday about the running back room. This is going to be completely different. I don't imagine Zamir White to be on the team. Dylan Lalby, I don't know if he's an NFL player. He doesn't have an NFL body as of right now. Sincere McCormick was decent. Raheem Mostert is good, but they do need to address that position, whether that's with Jeanty at 6 or in the second or third round. The wide receiver position right now is a little bit of an issue. Trey Tucker could be better with better quarterback play. We only see him pop when Aiden O'Connell plays because Aiden O'Connell is the only quarterback on the roster that can attempt to throw the ball down the field. Obviously, we know Gardner Minshew couldn't do that at all. We have Jacoby Myers, who's a really good number 2. He's like probably a poor man's number 1, but then that third wideout spot, we're not running with Kyle Phillips and Wilkerson and Tyreek McAllister. That's not happening. Tight end, we know, pretty good. Offensive line is okay. You've got your tackles in Miller and DJ Glaze. Parham is solid at the guard position. JPJ is going to be your center for years to come. Alex Kappa, nobody's in love with that signing. Might be a starter, might be depth. Who knows? But here's where we get into the meat and bones of what I think we still need to address, whether that's another free agent or whether that's hammering a lot of these players in the draft. And by the way, I can't see the chat right now, but keep chatting away, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so obviously your left and right ends are done, right? You got Crosby and Kuntz, and then to back them up, you've got Snowden, who was interesting. He played decently, and Tyree Wilson. The depth isn't. I'm not in love with it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And if they stay healthy, Kuntz and Crosby are going to be a great 1-2 punch. And then obviously up the middle you got Christian Wilkins. It's not going to be Jonah. It's going to be Adam Butler next to him. And then Matthew Butler is not terrible either. So your line, for the most part, lacking maybe a little bit of depth, is okay. We're going to skip to the safeties here, which I don't think is much of a concern because you got Jeremy Chin, who is every bit as good as Trayvon Merrick. Not the same exact player, but he's a solid player overall. And then you've got Isaiah Polamau, who signed a new contract, and he's going to be a young up and coming little stud here, for years to come. You've got Jack Jones, who is one of your corners. They just signed Eric Stokes today. That doesn't do much for me. D-Cam didn't play that well last year, but he was a rookie. Jacorian Bennett took a major step forward. So corner is definitely an area of need. And then at linebacker, you've got Elandon Roberts, who you just signed. Amari Burney, who's, okay. A lot of people love Amari Burney and Amari Gaynor. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they're Jack Tatum and Lawrence Taylor like some people do. Luke Masterson is fine. Tommy Eichenberg is young. This is where we need to discuss what I think is maybe not an area of need in the way that some Raider fans are thinking, and that's because of the pairing of Elandon Roberts and Elliss, who we signed. Now, let me see what people are saying in the chat. Roberts is terrible against the pass. Spillane wasn't great either, but he got picks. Now, look, Roberts, we'll talk about Elandon Roberts right now. Elliss isn't, though. He's good against the pass. Yeah, see, there could be a good combination here with Elliss, assuming he doesn't go back to the Patriots, and Roberts. So while people are saying corner is our biggest area of need, and I don't disagree with that, I actually think you are right. Linebacker could be concerning if these guys don't mesh and play well together. But if we go to this first article here, this is a pretty solid article by Matt on Silver and Black Pride. I'm pretty sure there's a link to this on Bleacher Report. Puzzling, Pittsburgh didn't re-sign Elandon Roberts. Steelers, Raiders weighs in on the linebacker. So they talked with Behind the Steel Curtain, which is basically their version of Silver and Black Pride, about Elandon Roberts, okay? So they talked to Ryan Parrish and Ryland Bickley. They shared some insight about Elandon Roberts. So the question was, why did the Steelers allow Elandon Roberts to walk in free agency? The first answer was, I think most fans expected Roberts to be back on a short-term deal, but that clearly wasn't the case. While I'm not privy to Mike Tomlin and general manager Omar Khan's reasoning, I think looking at who they replaced him with gives us a clue. Elandon Roberts, who was 31 in 1 month, didn't play special team snaps. With the Steelers doing a soft rebuild, Roberts became expendable. And this is where the other answer is, honestly, this one is a bit puzzling, as the Steelers turned around and gave a bigger deal to Malik Harrison, who seemed slightly worse than Roberts. So he became expendable because the Steelers are trying to get a little bit younger. This is the key here. What did Roberts bring to Pittsburgh's defense? Roberts brought physicality, attitude, and excellent vision on early downs. If you want that one play that summarizes what Roberts brings, look no further than the goal line rep against Dallas last year. As a run defender, Roberts is still a baller. Roberts played 44% of the Steelers' defensive snaps in 2024, generally seeing more playing time against run-heavy offenses. He's certainly not a sideline-to-sideline coverage linebacker, which somebody said, but his pairing with Patrick Queen allowed the Steelers to send him downhill most snaps, which is his best ability by far. Roberts brought his brand of energy and physicality to the defense, leaving him 2 years with the Steelers and plenty of memorable plays. So look, the stuff that they're saying about Roberts, he's got the attitude. Look at right here. I'm wary of giving character endorsements for someone I don't personally know, but by all accounts, Roberts is a true professional. There's one thing I wanted to read right here. Let's see. Where is it? Okay. At his age, I'd argue that you know exactly what you're getting with Roberts rather than the floor ceiling. If you put him in situations where he can tack downhill, whether that's filling gaps and taking on blocks in the run game or blowing up a running back in pass protection, you're getting an above average defender, which is what we need at the linebacker position, who's sure to be a fan favorite. He's smart and physical in that role, and linebackers who succeed the way Roberts did generally have a longer shelf life. He's on the wrong side of 30 now, and he's not going to get more athletic, but I think he'll be a good deal for the Raiders if he's allowed to play with his strengths. So, who does that sound like to you? Downhill runner, filling the gaps, good attitude, hard worker, fan favorite. Who does that sound like to you? Because to me, it sounds like Robert Spillane. And Robert Spillane, who was around the same age, just signed a 3-year, $31 million, is that what it was, contract with Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots. Now, Spillane was a little bit better in pass coverage, obviously, but that's where Christian Elliss comes in. So right now, with Elandon Roberts taking over the middle of the field, I don't hate that situation. I think it's all going to come down to Christian Elliss. You're saying Bobby Wagner and Matt Millen. I mean, hey, I don't disagree with that. I mean, Matt Millen is probably a little bit better than Elandon Roberts. Only time will tell. If Christian Elliss truly becomes a Raider, because the Patriots have until Monday to match him, and from what we're going to read right here, we we look like we're going to get him, and he becomes the pass protection, the pass defense linebacker, not pass protection, pass defense linebacker, the coverage linebacker, then we might be okay at linebacker. So let's get into a little bit of a Landon here. No, not a Landon. We just talked about a Landon. Christian Ellison. Okay, so this was updated today, but it was happening yesterday or 2 days ago. If you didn't know, Patriots linebacker signs offer sheet with the Raiders. The New England Patriots have been one of the most active teams in the NFL. Blah blah blah. Tom Pelissero. The Raiders have signed Patriots restricted free agent linebacker Christian Elliss to an offer sheet. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of him, but the more I read about him, the more I like it. As noted, Pelissero says Elliss received the right amount or the right of first refusal tender from the Patriots. He was undrafted, which is impressive. So New England receives no compensation if it does not match the offer sheet. In 5 seasons with Philadelphia and New England, Elliss has 117 tackles, 68 solo, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble recovery, and interception. All right. The majority of those came during his breakout 2024 season. So that's good to hear already. Elliss started 5 of 16 games in New England last season, totaling 80 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery on defense, and in special teams. He's a valuable depth piece for New England's defense in past years, but the organization's recent moves hinted at a likely divorce, which this is where we probably are going to get him. First, the Patriots signed former Raider linebacker Robert Spillane to a 3-year, $37.5 million contract. That's way too much for Robert Spillane. Then earlier this week, the Patriots agreed to contract terms with former Tennessee Titans linebacker Jack Gibbons as a depth option with where are we going here? With experience on special teams, Gibbons could be viewed as 1-for-1 replacement for Elliss. That makes New England unlikely to match Las Vegas's offer, but we won't know for sure until Monday. And then we move over again to Silver and Black Pride. This was yesterday, okay? Is Christian Elliss a diamond in the rough? This is again by Matt. So let's take a look at what he's good at, because Elandon Roberts is not a coverage linebacker, which is the area of concern for our defense as of right now. So let's see what Matt has to say about Christian Elliss. The Las Vegas Raiders signed New England Patriots. Yeah, we know this, blah, 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 blah. While the Patriots could match the Raiders' offer, they already brought in Gibbons. So let's see. The Raiders might have found a diamond in the rough if that's the case. So it says Elliss has rich NFL bloodlines, as his father Luther was a 2-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle for the Detroit Lions. His brother Caden is a current linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons, while his brother Jonah is an edge rusher for the Denver Broncos, and Noah was a defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this guy is a football guy. Okay. So we know about what he did. Okay. According to Pro Football Focus, Elliss recorded 514 defensive snaps in 2024 after getting less than half that in 3 years with the Eagles. He fared well in PFF's grading system, posting marks of 72.6 overall, 70.1 against the run, and 66.1 in coverage to earn a starting spot during the second half of the season. And this is the key, ladies and gentlemen, because Elandon Roberts is not a coverage linebacker. From week 9 through the regular season, Elliss's 72.8 PFF coverage grade ranked 11th among linebackers, due in part to forcing 3 incompletions, tied for 6th most at the position. At 25% rate, the highest at the position by 8%. That's pretty good. Still only 26 years old and not turning 27 until January. Elliss could have a bright future, given he's coming off a campaign where he set career highs in total tackles with 80, even though he's the coverage guy, with just 5 starts. Sacks 1.5, QB hits at 5, and passes defended at 6. Also, the video Kyle shared above shows off some impressive instincts against the run. Time will tell, but the Raiders might have found their diamond in the rough with Elliss. New England has until Monday to match Las Vegas' Raider offer, and if they don't, the Silver and Black will have another contender for a starting linebacker spot. So, I want to know in the chat how we're now feeling about our linebacker depth. Now, you guys, I'm going to end this poll right here, close this poll. Some of you are considering linebacker to be an area of concern. Now, look, it's not perfect. This is hinging on Elandon Roberts and Christian Ellison fitting in the system with Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll getting the most out of them. I would say I trust Patrick Graham to get the most out of decent defenders. Matthew Butler and Robert Spillane and Jacorian Bennett aren't exactly superstars, right? But Patrick Graham's system, the way he was able to coach these guys, they showed a lot of promise. Got Robert Spillane a new contract. Now, when we signed Robert Spillane, it wasn't much of a thought in terms of that being a big move for us, and he ended up being really good. Elandon Roberts seems to be the run-stuffing Robert Spillane, downhill, attack the running back linebacker. Christian Elliss seems to be fitting the Divine Diablo, faster, quicker, instinctual coverage linebacker who can still give you 80 tackles in a season where he only started 5 games. So as far as linebacker is concerned, it's not as much of an issue as I thought it would be after losing Spillane and Diablo, because it feels like they found people who can match the productivity of that without paying as much. It feels a little bit of Moneyball, right? They had to find a way to get batting averages for Johnny Damon and all these guys, right? And they were able to get guys that nobody had ever heard of to match that same production. You're not going to find your next Johnny Damon, not comparing Robert Spillane to Johnny Damon, but you can find people that can do just as much, or you can get 80% of Robert Spillane from, Elandon Roberts and 20% from Christian Ellison, there I go again, Christian Elliss, right? Now, if the Patriots sign it back, then it's all for nothing and it doesn't matter. So let me unpin this poll, and we're going to get into one other poll here in a second, because I want to talk about the 6th overall pick in terms of the defense, right? Because we'll get there in a second. Let me read the chat. Might be okay. A linebacker sounds kind of, sort of okay, maybe. Yeah, look, by no means is any of this a slam dunk, right? But it is not as much of a concern that I thought it would be, right? Corner is much more of a need, in my opinion, than D-line or safety or now linebacker with the 2 guys that they brought in. So let's see. Elliss and Roberts are light years better than Diablo. With our coaching staff in place, these guys are going to be very good. Don't sleep on them playing special teams as well. Linebackers are better than last year. Neither Spillane or Diablo could cover. Roberts great against the run. Elliss great against the pass. There is definitely room for optimism, especially with Pete Carroll. Like, again, he's been able to get the most out of a lot of these guys that weren't drafted particularly high. Like, we know Richard Sherman was a 5th-round draft pick. Bobby Wagner was drafted in the 2nd round. Cam Chancellor was drafted in the 5th round. Let's see where Earl Thomas was drafted. Earl Thomas was drafted in the 1st round. So, what about Malcolm Smith, former Raider, former MVP of the Super Bowl? Malcolm Smith was drafted in the 7th round, Super Bowl MVP. So Pete Carroll has proven time and time and again that he's been able to make the best out of drafting people to play his brand of defense, and also finding people that aren't exactly superstars at their position and getting the most out of them. Okay? So I see if we were going with Genty, then let's sign Amari Cooper. He's still close to number 1 receiver. I don't hate signing Amari. We do need to get another wide receiver. No doubt about it. But we talked about drafting Genty yesterday. So let me ask you this as I talk about the 6th pick in the draft. there's been a lot of talk about going offense, but if you looked at the state of both of our sides of the football, I think our offense feels like it doesn't have as many holes as our defense. Or I shouldn't say that. Let me backtrack. Our offense feels like it has easier holes to mask than the defense. I think it's harder to find a great corner or a great linebacker than it is to find a great wide receiver or running back. Does that make sense? So with the sixth pick in the draft, if Mason Graham, who by all accounts is a really, really good defensive tackle, and Ashton Genty are both there, I think there's a world in where you can convince me that we should go Mason Graham instead of Genty because it'll be easier to find our next good running back. I don't want to say great, our next good running back in their second or third round. It's going to be hard to find our next great defensive tackle in the second or third round. Now, if Abdul Carr doesn't fall to six, which he won't, if Travis Hunter doesn't fall to six, which he probably won't, if Mason Graham isn't there at six, which he might not be, and they don't want to go Genty because, again, they trust in their ability to find a great running back in the second or third or fourth round. Now you probably got to trade back, right? Because I don't think you could take Carter or Walker or what's his name, Tyler Johnson, right? The corner from Michigan. I don't think you could take either of those guys, any of those three at six. I think you could trade back to like 9 or 10, 10 to the Bears, Cowboys 12, get another second, get another third, right? If Genty doesn't fall to you, if one of those two guys take him, and if he's not there at 12 or 10, then you could take one of these stud defensive guys from Georgia or Michigan, and then you found your next corner or you found your next linebacker slash, edge guy to be the depth piece behind a Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz. So I see nobody saying we should take a defensive player with the sixth pick. That might just be because it depends on who's there. Yes, Dad, I will be there for dinner. He's making me crab cakes. He's a great father. That completely threw me off. What was I saying? Who cares? No, the sixth pick. I'm off now. What was I saying? You get what I'm saying. But point is, depending on who's there, if Mason Graham is there, I think that's the only way they go Mason Graham instead of Genty. If they make the sixth pick and Carter and Hunter and Graham are all gone, it will be Ashton Genty. No doubt in my mind. If one of those guys is there, then I don't know who we're gonna pick. If they don't make the pick, it's because they don't believe Genty should be taken at 6, and they're gonna trade back because we're kind of in no man's land. And of course, you have the Shedeur Sanders of it all. He's gonna be there at 6, maybe. Do they take him? I don't know. So let's see what the chat is saying before I hop on out of here, watch some March Madness, eat some crab, and watch my bracket just explode and implode. Rather trade back 2 times if we could draft Starks to pair with Chin, get some extra picks, draft our running back, cornerback later in the rounds. If they're both going, if they're both gone, go with Graham and Judkins in the second round. I think that's what you meant to say. I feel like a trade back as well. Do for the draft picks in next year's draft. I think trading back could be a realistic possibility. So look, a little bit of a slow day, but this is a good time to sort of reset, evaluate the state of the Raiders at this moment in time. I'm going to let you guys go a minute early to enjoy your Fridays. I had a wonderful time talking to the group here that we always have. By the way, make sure if you're enjoying this, share with your friends, share with your enemies, share with everybody, okay? Whether you're watching on Bleach Report live, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm going to hand it off to Mo Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll be back Thursday and Friday, same time. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after all, no charge to you. Screwed it up. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.